So we're going to dive into that some more further on, but now I want to kick it back to Carole and Jean-Anne and talk about one or two examples from their experience with their current company, or you can borrow from companies that you have started before. What are the key successes along those decision lines that you're proud of in terms of decision making? And what are the decisions that you're not so proud of? And what could you have done differently? And that would help us generalize, to overall space. But if you could maybe give us a few specific examples, that would be wonderful. So maybe one example each, one great decision, one not so great decision. So we'll start with Jean-Anne.
Okay. So goodness gracious, one not so great decision. I'm going to start with that one. So I think, Rob gave you guys a quote from Seth Godin. He also wrote a book called The Dip. And it's a great book. It talks about how do you know when you quit? And, everybody will tell you that being an entrepreneur is seriously hard, and it is seriously hard. And one of the hardest challenges is the one that says, when you're having a hard time making this happen, assembling that aircraft on the way down, is it because you're doing the wrong thing? Or is it just hard, right? And so Seth has a book called The Dip that talks about, it's really short. It talks about how do you decide when it is time to quit or not to quit. And I can't even count over the last 9 years the number of very respected business people who've told me that what we were doing was simply too hard to be done in today's environment, and I should stop. But my best friend taught me something a long time ago, which is a very important learning, and that is, when it's time to give up, when you are out of paths to go down. And so when you look at it from a decision-making perspective, you've got all of these different paths that you can execute on. And, like Rob said, when the founders give up, they, a burnout or something along those lines, it's because they're not looking ahead at all of those other paths that they have to go down and just saying, I'm gonna do it. And so, it's kind of not a failure as much, like we didn't do it wrong, but I certainly did in the past 9 years spend multiple times of going back and going, it shouldn't be this hard to raise this much money in a market with 60 million people in the United States and over 1 billion worldwide. It shouldn't be this hard. So I have to be doing something wrong. And it turns out I wasn't. But that was a key thing. One other one that I want to mention.
Jean-Anne, sorry, when you say quit, there are many quits along the product development paths too, right? Sort of go, no go decision where you decide, okay, I'm not going to pursue that direction anymore, and then pursue something else. So how do you have you experienced that? I know you and I have, you shared previously an example of where you maybe chose a wrong material for your watch. And that was, you realized that was wrong. And so could you speak a little bit more, maybe more specifically about this or some other decision like that, where you just,